Alright, we are on the air. This is Missing Kids TV number 67. This time around, we're talking about the Amy Bradley case. A young girl went on a cruise ship out in the ocean along foreign countries and mysteriously went vanishing and disappeared. We're going to delve into what may or may not have happened to Amy. There's a lot of different theories. Could people on board the ship have been involved? Could there possibly be people in the town where the ship embarked on? Or did she fall overboard? All these possibilities and more will be discussed right here on Missing Kids TV, so make sure you stay tuned. We're going to delve into possible police corruption, possible FBI corruption, and the possible how you can prevent from being a victim. All that and more right here on Missing Kids TV. Alright, we are back. You are listening to Missing Kids TV. This is episode number 67. We're going to be talking about the Amy Bradley case this time around. For those that are unfamiliar with this case, I have the link up. You can find her on the AMW page at America's Most Wanted at amw.com. Now, her case is very similar to one that made the news fairly recently. Many people are aware of the Natalee Holloway case, in which Natalee went on a trip to Aruba and was later discovered to be missing. A person by the name of Jordan Vandersloot was later charged in connection to the murder of another individual that was 5 years later from the day that Natalee went missing. Now, Natalee's mother, Beth, is going to be on this show later. Not live, but from a pre-taped recording. We'll be playing that. She's going to be talking about the Amy Bradley case, and we're going to see about the similarities between the Amy Bradley case and the Natalee Holloway case, along with other cases. Now, I've talked on this program in the past about possible police corruption or possible human trafficking rings that are working maybe hand in hand with some corrupt police officials. Now, we're going to delve into that topic here on this program a little bit later on and let you, the audience, come to your own conclusions based on the facts of the evidence that I present to you in this case. After the clips of this case are done and we've aired them, I'm going to give you a small follow-up as to a con man that unfortunately tried to prey upon the Bradley family. There's a lot of evil people out there, and there's more than just the abductor or abductors in this case, and I'm going to shed a light on all of that for you, so that way you too do not become a victim in the way that this family has. MKTV is all about bringing justice and bringing awareness to people, and I need your help to do that. So if you're listening to this, please make sure you hit the follow button so you can follow along. Make sure you share this on your page with your friends. We've been having a little trouble with Facebook lately, and we haven't been able to promote these episodes the way we would like, so we need your help with that. Now, with any further ado, we're going to let Beth Holloway tell us about the Amy Bradley case.
An all-American girl vanishes from a Caribbean cruise liner.
Somebody saw her, somebody wanted her, and somebody took her.
Her parents' search for answers leads them into unimaginable territory.
It was just horrible.
It wasn't the Amy that I know.
And a trail of witnesses uncover the unthinkable.
That's the girl I saw in Barbados.
I'm 100% sure right now as I'm speaking that she's alive.
Somebody knows what happened. One way or the other, somebody knows.
Beth Holloway ventures to Curacao to track the mysterious disappearance of Amy Bradley. Now, on Vanished.
2005, I got the call telling me that my daughter Natalie had vanished. Every parent's worst nightmare became my reality. I asked the world to help me. I found myself in an unimaginable fight. My search for answers gave me a new mission in life. Bring the missing home and criminals to justice. When a loved one goes missing in a foreign country, the feeling of pain and helplessness is unbearable. It's something I know about firsthand, as does this next family, whose own Caribbean vacation left them wondering if their daughter was the victim of an unspeakable crime.
Chesterfield, Virginia. Home to the Bradley family. Ron, Iva, Brad, and Amy.
Amy was born first and ran the show. Amy lettered in 5 sports in high school. Brad did the same thing.
Was Amy a take-charge sister?
Focused and a fireball and...
A lot like her mom.
Amy receives multiple college scholarship offers, but chooses the school closest to home. Amy and her brother Brad are especially close.
Brother, I'll always be there for you. I love you, little brother.
Hey!
By 1998, 23-year-old Amy has built a life of her own. She has a new apartment and is making plans to pursue a master's degree in sports psychology.
She seemed to be as happy as she could and was very excited about everything at home and how things were going with her life at that point.
In early March, Amy's parents call with more exciting news. Her father's employer is sending the family on a 7-day Caribbean cruise. Surprisingly, Amy is reluctant to join them.
She was a little apprehensive about the big boat thing and about the ocean, even though she's a swim team coach and swam all her life.
Despite her fears, the opportunity to spend time with her family is one Amy can't pass up. On March 21st, 1998, the Bradleys step aboard a 1,000-foot cruise liner and cast off from Puerto Rico.
So the day arrives, you board the ship, and you set sail.
I looked at them and thought, wow, how special, how great. Everybody looks and everybody's having a great time.
And that's what you're there for. Having a good time, enjoying yourself, relaxing, and what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. On the morning of March 23rd, the ship drops anchor in Oranjestad, Aruba. The Bradleys mark the occasion with a family photo.
The wind's blowing and Amy's hair's standing straight up on her head, and we've got Brad and Ronnie in the background, and I'm just tickled to death.
After a day of exploring the island, Amy and her family return to the ship for dinner, followed by a calypso party on the upper deck.
There was music, and we did the limbo contest, which I won that night. Just having drinks, having a good time.
Around 1 a.m., the ship sets off for Curacao, a tiny island off the coast of Venezuela. Exhausted, Iva and Ron decide to call it a night. Amy and Brad head to the ship's 24-hour dance club to hear a performance by the house band.
We're just dancing, having a good time, until I got back to the room, I think around 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting outside on the balcony, and I think it was around 4:15 or 4:30 that she came in and joined me on the balcony.
Shortly after that, Brad decides to call it a night. But Amy is still wide awake.
She said she was going to stay out on the balcony and get some fresh air, so I told her I loved her and went inside.
5:30 a.m. As the ship arrives in Curacao, Ron Bradley wakes to find his daughter still on the balcony, relaxing.
Knowing that she was comfortable, I just decided to lay my head back down because I knew in about 20 minutes we were going to get up and go off on the island and have breakfast.
But when Ron wakes up again 20 minutes later, Amy is nowhere in sight.
Right away I said, well, she must have gone up on the deck to take some pictures, drink some coffee. So I fully anticipated going out of the room and finding her up on deck.
But Amy is not on deck. All of her belongings are still in the room. Yet after searching the ship for more than an hour, Amy is nowhere to be found. Ron is starting to panic.
You know, where in the world is she? And I came back and told my wife that I can't find Amy. You need to get up and help me look.
What was your initial gut reaction when he told you that?
I'm immediately very, very, very upset and concerned because I took one look at him and he didn't even look like him. He was completely frantic.
Where is Amy Bradley? Passengers are preparing to spend the day in Curacao. Ron and Iva Bradley beg the crew not to let down the gangplank.
My wife was pleading not to let anyone off the ship. Please muster everyone to account for everyone and look over the ship, search the rooms, please find her.
The captain agrees to launch a search for Amy, but refuses to make an announcement or seal off the ship. Minutes later, the cruise liner opens its doors to the streets of Curacao.
Your thoughts must have just been racing with panic that Amy is nowhere to be found, and now the ship is just emptying out.
I said, there's about 3,000 people on here. There's 3,000 eyes and there's 3,000 ears. You've got to put out a picture. You've got to make an announcement that she's missing. We need help.
He said, we can't make an announcement like that. It will disturb the passengers.
For now, the Bradleys can only start searching the ship.
We went up and looked around the disco and all the different floors, and you realize it wasn't just an everyday situation.
I don't know how to describe the feeling. It was just helplessness and frantic at the same time.
5 p.m. The Bradleys have yet to find any sign of Amy. They've also been informed by the ship's captain that his search turned up nothing either.
He said, every nook and cranny of this ship has been searched. Your daughter is not on this ship.
Amy Bradley has vanished. When pressed by the Bradleys, the captain suggests Amy could have fallen overboard. The Bradleys are skeptical.
She wouldn't come near the rail, and never did in the first couple days of the cruise. I don't think that there's any chance she fell over accidentally.
But if Amy didn't fall overboard accidentally, what could have happened? Some members of the ship's crew suggest Amy might have jumped on purpose, committing suicide. Again, the Bradleys don't buy it.
Knowing the type of person that she is, and the fact that she had just graduated from college, had just gotten a new English bulldog, which she'd always wanted. As far as jumping from the ship, just never been a possibility in my mind.
Another crew member suggests Amy might have disembarked in Curacao.
He suggested that Amy might be found on Curacao, that maybe we should leave the ship. And we said, well, maybe we should stay on the boat. And he said, well, if you stay on the boat and she ends up in Curacao, we can't get you off.
At 5:30 that evening, the Bradleys reluctantly step off the boat and into a foreign country.
How did you get off that ship? How did you do it?
The hardest thing I'd ever done. You just are kind of stunned and you leave.
In less than 4 hours, the ship will set sail for its next destination, with or without the Bradleys. The search for Amy is a race against the clock.
We're in a foreign country. We don't know what to do. We're trying to get in touch with authorities. We're trying to get in touch with the embassy. That was closed. It was complete chaos.
Amy's parents reach out to the FBI, but it will be at least 24 hours before agents can get to the island. As the ship prepares for departure, the Bradleys make the gut-wrenching decision to stay behind and continue searching for Amy.
And we sit there and watch the ship leave the island. One thing that we noticed, we knew exactly where our room was on the ship, and it was dark. All the other lights were on, and everybody was partying and having a good time, and there we were by ourselves.
Coming up, a shocking revelation yields a crucial lead and a prime suspect.
Amy turned slowly and walked into the disco, and he walked in behind her.
Now you can get the same AMW gear that cops all ask us for. AMW ball caps, AMW shirts, AMW mugs, and much more. Just go to our website, amw.com. Click on AMW gear. Soon, you'll be making a difference with style.
Alright, if you're joining us late, we are talking about the Amy Bradley case today. This is the story of a young woman who was on a cruise ship and mysteriously vanished under suspicious circumstances. We're going to delve a little bit more into what happened to Amy in just a moment here, with being hosted by Beth Holloway, the mother of the famous Natalie Holloway case. But before we get into the next segment here on Missing Kids TV, I'd like to take a moment and say something that I've said many, many times, is that it pains me when people put money over that of human life and human dignity. Okay, you just heard in the last clip that the captain of the ship did not want to make an announcement over the fact that Amy was missing due to the fact that he didn't want to disturb the passengers. Now, nowadays, when you go into places like Walmart or some other department stores, you may notice that some of them have stickers and plaques up on the wall referring to Code Adam. Now, Code Adam is somewhat a recent development in many stores, where what that is when a child or an individual goes missing, the stores will end up posting a Code Adam, which means that for the most part nobody can leave the store until the individual has been located. And if the individual has not been located in I believe it's 10 minutes, then the police are notified, and they conduct a search appropriately and stuff like that. Now, in this particular case, when you're on a cruise ship is a little different, because it's still a business, like the Disney cruises and things like that, but they don't have the same regulations and things that you would have with like a store or something like that. But I don't know what the exact policies were for this particular cruise ship at that particular time, but in my opinion, and this is just my own personal opinion, I think that it was a little bit wrong, possibly a little suspicious even, that they would not offer any kind of announcement saying, hey, this girl is missing. If you see someone, with this girl, or if you see this girl somewhere, please let somebody know. And coming up like that just seems a little odd, and we'll delve a little bit more into why exactly that happened that way a little bit later on in this program. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, I'd like to thank you for listening to Missing Kids TV and taking time out of your evening here. It's April 25th, 2013. And I'd like to say thank you, and I would hope that you would listen to all of our programs here. There's a lot of programs in the archives that you can listen to and click on, and if you hit the follow button, you can follow along, and all of the broadcasts will be sent to you. You can find them on iTunes and other places like that. It's available on your mobile devices and your iPads and things like that. I work very hard to get a new episode out here each and every week, where we focus on a brand new missing persons case or a fugitive that needs to be profiled. So I'm glad to have you all aboard, and in just a moment we're going to get back into the Amy Bradley case. So what exactly happened to Amy Bradley that day? We're going to delve a little bit further into that case here in just a moment. Please stay tuned.
Five days into what should have been a dream vacation, the Bradley family is living a nightmare. Their daughter Amy has vanished from a cruise liner. After frantically combing the ship, the Bradleys disembark and search for Amy on the streets of Curacao.
We got off of the boat. I can't really tell you what was going on in those next few hours. We were distraught beyond even being able to explain it.
That's when Amy's mother, Iva, receives alarming news from the FBI. It turns out their decision to stay behind in Curacao might have been the wrong one.
They'd been in contact with the boat, and actually there was not a thorough search on the boat. They searched the common areas, they searched the restrooms, but they did not search every nook and cranny.
Could Amy still be aboard the ship? Accompanied by a team of FBI agents, the Bradleys race to St. Thomas, the ship's next stop, and confront the captain.
I looked at the captain eyeball to eyeball, and I told him, I said, you lied to us. You did not search this ship in its entirety. I said it would behoove you to let the FBI on here so we can find out who has Amy.
On March 26th, the FBI conducts an extensive search of the ship.
They did what they call a bomb search. And they had crew members walking around with Amy's picture folded up in their hand. You know, they were looking here and they were looking there.
Meanwhile, Amy's family continues their own search.
So now you have rejoined the ship. What are some tips and leads that are coming to you guys?
We were just walking down the hallway, and these two college-age girls, they came screaming up to us, just frantic. We saw Amy with a band member. We saw Amy, and we couldn't find you. Where have you been? And we said, well, we just got back on the ship. What are you talking about?
The girls claim that around 5:45 a.m., they saw Amy heading back to the ship's all-night dance club with the band's bass player, a Grenadian man by the name of Alistair Douglas.
They said they saw them come up the elevator, and then when the elevator door opened to the disco, she turned and they stepped into the disco.
So the very last person that Amy was known to be seen alive with is Alistair Douglas.
Yes, it's him.
Amy's brother Brad also recalls seeing her dancing with Douglas earlier, the night of her disappearance. More importantly, Brad recalls a strange encounter he had with Douglas the next morning.
He comes up to me, and the first thing he said was, he said, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister."
Alistair Douglas's statement triggers alarm bells with the Bradleys, because at that time, the only people that knew Amy was missing were the captain and his security team.
That's the only people beside Brad that knew that we were looking for Amy.
The Bradleys report the incident to the FBI, and Alistair Douglas is brought in for questioning. Authorities want to know how he knew about Amy's disappearance, even though it was never announced. But Douglas changes his story and claims to know absolutely nothing about Amy's disappearance.
What are your next steps?
They brought a polygrapher on the ship, and they did a polygraph.
Ship security and law enforcement both question Douglas, but there is not enough evidence to detain him.
Wow. So you're thinking, he's it. You know, I want to get to him because that is the person that's last known to be seen with my daughter alive. Do you get to him?
I never had anything personally to say to him. I was in another world. I was trying to just stay alive. Ron remembers sitting outside of the interview room, and he had to just about be restrained.
He came out with a thumbs up and kind of smiling like everything's cool. And it was all I could do to keep my composure at that time.
According to the Bradleys, the mystery surrounding Amy's disappearance deepens further when investigators discover that the ship's photo service, which snaps and sells pictures of all its passengers, has somehow lost every photo of Amy.
So all of your daughters pictures are missing.
Her pictures were missing about 9 to 10 hours before she disappeared.
Out of everyone on that ship, her pictures were the only ones missing.
The Bradleys attempt to find out who removed the photos, to no avail. Between the missing photos and the suspicious behavior of Douglas, there is growing concern that Amy's disappearance might be related to some sort of kidnapping conspiracy.
My intuition as a mother, somebody's got her. Somebody saw her, somebody wanted her, and somebody took her.
Despite searching the ship and interviewing several crew members, the FBI doesn't have the necessary evidence to charge anyone with kidnapping. On March 28th, the Bradleys' dream vacation ends in despair. They disembark the ship one final time and catch a flight back home.
I know it had to have been the hardest point in this entire nightmare for you to leave that ship without your daughter.
Had I known that, Beth, we would have not taken our treasures on a trip because we came home without Amy.
You were absolutely robbed of any opportunity that you had as her mother and as her father to determine her last known whereabouts.
Despite their heartbreak, the Bradleys refuse to give up and launch a campaign to bring nationwide awareness to Amy's case.
It's a dream vacation that turned into a nightmare for Iva and Ron Bradley.
We hit the ground running pretty quickly after we got back. It would have been much easier to come home and just crawl in the bed, but that's not how we are. I said, let me tell you what, Amy is counting on us.
The Bradleys also announce a $200,000 reward to anyone with information leading to Amy's safe return. But despite the media attention and the hefty reward, 4 weeks pass without any new developments. On April 21st, Brad and Ron decide to return to Curacao to search for Amy once again.
We went down to hand out flyers all over the island, and we rented a vehicle and just went all over the place.
Within 24 hours, Ron and Brad receive a critical tip. A taxi driver recognizes Amy from the flyer and tells them he saw her the morning she vanished.
He walked up to us and pulled us aside and told us that he wanted us to know that Amy was on that island.
According to the driver, Amy approached his cab just minutes after the cruise ship docked on the island.
He was waiting at the ship where people got off, and he said she came up kind of frantic, acting, and asked where the telephone was. He said, "I'll never forget her green eyes." She has green eyes.
It seems the Bradleys finally have the break they are looking for. With the help of local police, Ron and Brad scour the tiny island for any trace of Amy.
It was a crazy search. They were looking in huts and going in the water and crawling up on the back of boats.
We were just looking for her, looking for any clues, anything.
Then, 4 days into their search, Brad hears an eerily familiar voice.
I heard Amy call my name. Pretty distinctive growing up my whole life with the way that she would say my name and call me.
The voice seems to be coming from a passing van.
So we kind of whipped a U-turn and followed the car that we thought it came from back in all these neighborhoods and little side roads and things.
Eventually, Ron and Brad catch up to the van.
And we got up to him and just some guy, by himself in the van. So either, we obviously followed the wrong car or heard what I wanted to hear. I don't know, but that was a little bit intense.
After nearly a week on the island, Ron and Brad return home empty-handed.
We just made a decision to come home because we had done everything that we could think of.
Coming up, before Ron and Brad even get home, authorities in Curacao uncover a gruesome piece of evidence. One that could bring the search for Amy to a horrific conclusion.
They had found a body.
Yes, it's dark and I am scared.
It can happen in an instant. You get separated from your child. Your dad doesn't feel right, but he's not sure he should call 911. You just feel uneasy walking to your car. With 5-star urgent response, one touch, and you'll be immediately connected to 5-star agents or 911.
Calling 5-star.
This is 5-star. How can I help you?
I can't find my mom.
Using enhanced location tracking with GPS, these agents can determine your location and get you the help you need.
An ambulance is on its way.
Okay, thank you.
Can you stay with me till I get to my car?
I'll stay with you all the way.
Hello, Mrs. Williams. I've located Sean. He says he's by the steps.
5-star urgent response. It's help at the touch of a button.
Calling 5-star.
Now available at Walmart, Sears, or online at greatcall.com.
It's been 4 weeks since Amy Bradley vanished from the deck of a Caribbean cruise ship. But after a frustrating week searching the island of Curacao, her father and brother return home, empty-handed, once again.
You're leaving and you're going home, and there's nothing else you can do there. I mean, you've done everything you can do. It was just horrible.
Despite the unthinkable horror of their situation, Ron and Iva refuse to give up.
There's not many people that knows how this feels.
You're gonna have me crying, Iva.
Even through the tears and the being anxious and being upset, we have got to stay focused and positive.
But the Bradleys' darkest hour is yet to come. On their way back home, Ron and Brad lay over in Miami. While there, they receive some chilling news from Iva.
The harbor chief on Curacao had called our house and told her that they had found a body and said it was a female, had brown hair, and he thinks that it was probably Amy's.
It just had to have been just absolutely crushing to you.
I remember coming back into Chesterfield Airport. We were getting ready to land, and the wind was blowing about 40 miles an hour that day. And normally I'm not real crazy about flying, but that day, if it had gone down, it wouldn't have bothered me.
It will take investigators in Curacao 24 hours to ID the remains. The wait is excruciating.
I felt like we were about this big, and we didn't know what to do, where to go, how to handle things.
Finally, the phone rings. Though it's unclear whose remains authorities have found, they can tell it's not Amy.
What they found on the beach was not a female with brown hair. Actually, it was a male, and it was just a pelvic girdle and a piece of a spine that was determined to be for a man.
The Bradleys are relieved, but they are no closer to finding their daughter. Once again, they turn to the media for help.
It was just a constant thing from the time we got up in the morning until the time we went to bed at night, and it never stopped.
It's like a hole blown through you with a bunch of jagged edges. There is no closure until we find Amy.
May 1999. After watching a TV segment on Amy's case, a Canadian businessman by the name of David Carmichael calls the Bradleys with an astonishing lead. He also tells them he has no interest in their reward fund.
I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget it. He said, I have seen your daughter. I've absolutely seen your daughter.
According to Carmichael, the encounter took place while he was scuba diving in Curacao, some 5 months after Amy vanished.
We were over in a small area where we wash off the equipment in fresh water, and I looked down the beach and I saw a girl walking down the beach with being flanked by 2 people.
At first, Carmichael paid no attention to the 3 strangers. But then, the woman did something bizarre.
The minute she heard I spoke English, she picked up her pace and was putting distance between her and the 2 people that were flanking her. Within what was probably seconds, she was within 3 or 4 feet of me.
According to Carmichael, just as the young woman was about to speak, the 2 men caught up to her and pulled her into a nearby cafe. David decides to follow them.
Something went off in my brain to tell me, gather more information about this person.
David notices a scar on the woman's right shin, and she also seems to be pointing out several tattoos. She has a Tasmanian devil on her left shoulder blade. David's description is chilling.
The credibility is unquestionable.
This time, this could be it. This could really be Amy.
He described her to a T, to include her tattoo.
I was 2 feet away from her. 2 feet. That's how close I was. I don't even have to think about it. It's 100%. It's not 99, it's 100. It's 100%. It was her. It was.
If the woman on the beach was Amy, then who were the mysterious men with her?
It made us wonder what type of situation Amy was in and who had or who was controlling her.
The Bradleys contact local authorities, who search the area where the encounter allegedly took place. They find no sign of Amy. But Carmichael's tip does convince the Bradleys that Amy has been kidnapped.
It was just a confirmation of somebody's got her, because she was definitely under control. She was not walking on the beach under her own free will.
3 months later, another man comes forward with additional information that seems to prove, without a doubt, that Amy has been kidnapped. The man's name is Frank Jones. Jones is a private investigator who claims that Amy is being held captive, and that her captors specialize in one of the Caribbean's darkest secrets: human trafficking.
People take a look at human trafficking and they go, that's crazy. Go on the internet and type in human trafficking in the United States alone. It will blow your mind.
The U.S. State Department estimates that more than 12 million people worldwide are the victims of human and sexual trafficking. And Frank Jones believes that Amy has been forced into sexual slavery. He also believes that if anyone can bring Amy home safely, he can.
This is a guy that presented himself as a special forces guy that's rescued people like this.
But according to Jones, operations like these take time and tens of thousands of dollars. The Bradleys are more than willing to pay.
He seemed to back up what he was saying. He was following Amy. He knew where she was. I say to myself, hey, if that's where she is, let's get this done. Maybe today's the day.
When your daughter's missing, you're willing to do anything and spend any amount of money if you think it's going to help find her. So that's what we did.
Over the next year, Jones and his team of reconnaissance experts conduct operations in Curacao, staking out suspected brothels and drug dens, ultimately concluding Amy is still alive and is being held on the island. As evidence, they send the Bradleys surveillance photos.
Some of the shots were Amy's tattoo on her ankle. Another shot was her facing away and a tattoo on her shoulder. She stood like Amy. She was built like Amy. And so we thought it was Amy.
On September 22, 1999, Frank Jones informs the Bradleys that he's gathered enough intel to successfully extract Amy. But to do so, he'll need an additional $100,000. Ron Bradley borrows the money from his boss.
We were able to get the money together by our former employer, who said, hey, if that's where she is, let's get this done.
It seems the Bradleys are prepared to bring Amy home at last. Coming up, Beth Holloway ventures to Curacao to come to grips with a staggering turn of events that tests the Bradley family like never before.
There were some pretty evil things that happened.
Alright, you are listening to Missing Kids TV. This is episode number 67, and we are talking about the Bradley case, the Amy Bradley case this time. If you're just joining us, you're joining a little late, but we'll get you caught up in just a second here. Now, in the last segment here, we talked about a guy named Frank Jones. Now, I've put a link up on the Facebook page at facebook.com/missingkidstv about Ron Jones. Now, this information comes not only from ABC News, but but from Ron and Iva Bradley themselves. So what I'm about to say cannot be considered libel or blasphemous or anything like that. It's not alleged what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say is true. Now, in the last segment that you heard, a quote-unquote private investigator by the name of Frank Jones offered to help the Bradley family, but he needed an additional $100,000 in order to do that. Now, when Ron and Iva Bradley got an email from a self-described soldier of fortune, Frank Jones seemed like the answer to their prayers. Amy went missing when she was 23, and the family had recently heard from a witness that she was being held at Curacao. Now this Jones guy said that he was a ex-Navy Ranger and stuff like that, and that he could get to her daughter, and that her daughter was held by armed Colombians. Okay, he said that if you gave him an additional $186,000 from a fund set up for Amy by the National Missing Children's Organization. So this guy got $210,000 from the Bradleys. $24,000 of that was from their own pocket. And Jones told them that it was time to attempt a rescue. He needed more money. Okay, when the family demanded proof that the woman that Jones's men were tracking was their daughter, he sent them some photographs of her sitting on the beach with the blonde-haired man. And then when the family got the pictures, they thought that this was Amy, and it was just a matter of time. So that's why they went out of their way to go to their former boss to get all this money, etc., etc., etc. They flew down to Florida, and they waited in a hotel with a private jet provided by Ron's employer, an insurance company. And the family says that they stood in that hotel for a week, thinking that any minute that they were going to get a phone call. Okay. Now days went by and the call never came. So another member of Jones' team told ABC that the photographs supposedly showing Amy on the beach with a blonde-haired abductor were in fact taken by Jones himself on a beach in Pensacola, Florida, and that this person, Jono Sink, said that he posed as the captor wearing a blonde wig while the woman in the picture was an acquaintance of Jones. So this was all a big scam to try and basically take them for the reward money and basically kick them while they were down. Now, I'm telling you this over the air because I don't want other people who have missing children to fall prey to the same kind of a scam. Okay? So that's the reason that I'm bringing this up here. The Bradleys themselves are pointing this out there. I have friends that have been taken by so-called investigators and people that are not on the up and up, and it's really sad to think that there are individuals out there that will take advantage of someone when they're in such a vulnerable state. But this is the sad state of the world that we live in today. So unfortunately, that's what I'm here to do, is to inform and enlighten people of the, kind of horrors that are out there in the world these days. So, I don't want anyone else to be squandered out of their life savings in an attempt to find their loved ones. So, that's why I'm bringing this to everyone's attention. Alright, we're going to get back into the Amy Bradley case here in just a moment. I wanted to give everybody a kind of like an update as to what's going on here with all that. So, I apologize if, this particular episode of Missing Kids TV seems a little bit darker than most. Sometimes we delve into really scary topics here. So, alright, let's get back into the Amy Bradley case right here on Missing Kids TV.
2 years after Amy Bradley vanished from a cruise liner, her family seems to be closing in on the truth. Former Special Forces officer Frank Jones and his reconnaissance team are convinced Amy is being held against her will on the Caribbean island of Curacao. But first, Jones needs a final payment of $100,000. The Bradleys' employer is willing to help out, but wants to make sure the tip is legitimate before he hands over the cash. So on November 1st, 2000, he sends a trusted source, security contractor Tim Buckholes, to Curacao in order to monitor Frank Jones and his team.
He's very kind, he's very gentle, but he's scary. He's the kind of guy that can go on an island or go anywhere in the world, and he just straight up says, I need to meet the criminal element here.
After just a few hours on the island, Buckholes contacts the Bradleys with some heartbreaking news.
He called us saying that Frank Jones is down here drinking rum and having a good time, and with absolutely nothing going on concerning Amy.
Tim has also discovered that Frank Jones is not the former Special Forces operative he claims to be. Jones is a con artist, and that the alleged photos of Amy are phony as well.
He had gotten copies of that tattoo from us that he took to a tattoo parlor, and they did a stencil and put it on this girl. And they posed her on the beach as Amy in order to get some additional funding.
How much money had Iva given to Frank?
Frank had actually taken over $200,000 from that family. And it wasn't the family's money, it was donations, and everybody that was giving donations to help find Amy.
In February 2002, Frank Jones is arrested in Virginia and charged with mail fraud. He is sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to repay every penny he conned from the Bradleys. But what the Bradleys can't recoup is the time they've wasted on this bogus investigation.
Frank Jones stole 2 years of our ability to be able to do the legitimate things that we needed to do to find Amy. I think about it at this point and I get so angry over the amount of time that we lost.
But while the Bradleys are trying to jumpstart the search for Amy, another lead comes in. This time from a sailor stationed on Curacao.
A Navy officer went into a brothel and a girl approached him.
And she leaned in and said, my name is Amy Bradley and I need help. And he said, well, what kind of help do you need? And she says, I need help, I can't get out. And then somebody motioned her away.
The details of the sailor's story are strikingly similar to those of David Carmichael, the Canadian scuba diver who encountered Amy 3 years prior. Because the sailor wasn't supposed to be inside the brothel, he waited more than 2 years to come forward.
Since then, that brothel has been burned down. It seems like that a lot of places on Curacao get burned down for whatever reason.
Though Amy's trail has once again grown cold, it now seems clear to the Bradleys that Amy has been forced into prostitution. But they are grateful that Amy is still alive.
You guys are such fighters to keep Amy's name, her face, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance in the forefront.
We can't let her down. And any parent will do whatever, as you well know, whatever you have to do to find your child.
4 more years pass without a single new lead in the case. But finally, in September 2005, the Bradleys receive a shocking tip. An anonymous source sends them photos he found online. The woman in the pictures bears a striking resemblance to Amy.
Could these possibly be Amy? Heavy makeup, kind of wild hair. My sister, the artist, first thing she does is she takes the picture. She said, squint your eyes at that picture and see what you see. And Beth, when I squinted, it was like, it just shocked me. It was just Amy.
Even more telling is the fact that the pictures were pulled from an adult website based in the Caribbean. And the young woman is being advertised as a female escort. After droves of false leads and dashed hopes, the Bradleys want to be 100% sure it's really Amy.
We got in touch with a forensic detective in one of the police departments, and he took those pictures and he took Amy's pictures and he did overlays.
The forensic detective determines that facial structure, hairline, and multiple ear piercings make the girl in the photo a perfect match for Amy.
He gave us the complete breakdown on it, and he said, I will tell you that I will bet my career that this is Amy.
Investigators begin tracing the IP address of the website hosting the pictures. Coming up, just as they're honing in on the source of the photos, another woman's terrifying encounter strikes a new level of fear in the Bradleys and drastically alters the course of the investigation.
It had to have been just sheer panic.
It scared me to death. I thought, are they coming in to rob me or rape me? Or I didn't know what to do.
After nearly 8 years of false leads and multiple sightings, shocking photos have been found on a website advertising prostitutes in the Caribbean. The pictures seem to confirm that Ron and Iva Bradley's daughter Amy has been abducted and forced into sexual slavery.
When I first looked at the picture, it wasn't the Amy that I know. It wasn't the soft, kind, innocent Amy. The picture looks like a harsh and tormented Amy. And it's tough to look at.
Investigators are having trouble pinpointing the exact location of the website's IP address. Until that happens, they will be hard-pressed to move the case forward. But now that they're armed with recent photos of the woman they believe is their daughter, Ron and Iva turn to the media once again, confident someone, somewhere, will recognize Amy, who is now 31 years old.
Joining us now are her parents.
Someone saw Amy and took Amy from that ship in some way.
In December 2005, the Bradleys' tireless efforts yield another breakthrough on the tiny island of Barbados. It involves an Ohio woman named Judy Maurer.
What took you to Barbados, Judy?
My husband and I went on a cruise. The ship docked in Barbados at Bridgetown, and we decided to go downtown and do some shopping.
While using a department store ladies' room, Judy finds herself trapped in a frightening situation.
I went into the stall. As soon as I got into the stall and sat down, I heard somebody coming into the restroom, and I heard men's voices. My automatic response was to hide because I was afraid they came in to rob me or, rape me or something. I didn't know what was going on.
Gripped with fear, Judy listens as one of the men makes a threatening statement to someone.
He must have said 5 or 6 times, the deal's at 11 o'clock, and you better be ready to go. He goes, and I'm warning you, you better cooperate. This is my deal, and you better not mess it up. And he just kept saying this.
You had to have been just trembling with fear.
I was petrified. I was practically holding my breath because I'm thinking, I'm witnessing something that I shouldn't be witnessing.
Then, as quickly as they enter the restroom, the men leave. But Judy Maurer is still not alone. Cowering by the sink is a young woman who appears to be in her early 30s.
She looked like she's about ready to cry. So I tried to talk to her because I could see that she was just really distraught. So I said, well, where are you from? And she talked so softly that I could barely hear her, but at the time I thought she said Virginia.
What the woman told Judy next was unmistakable.
So then I says, well, what's your name? And then real softly, she says, Amy. And
what did you do when she said her name was Amy?
Well, I said, oh, my daughter's name is Amy. She got the most horrid look on her face. Her mouth flew open, and she did a pivot towards me and then starts walking towards me and getting in my space like this. And she did that 3 times, like she was trying to get me to be quiet.
That instant, the men's voices reappeared outside the door.
I heard a pounding on the door real loud, and I could hear a man making noises. And the door flew open about this far. And as soon as that happened, she kind of grimaced and just stood there like she was frozen.
Panicked, Judy bolts out of the bathroom and past 4 men waiting outside. She never sees the woman again, or at least for 9 months, when Judy comes across the most recent photos of Amy in an article about missing persons.
Judy, when you saw this young woman's face, did you instantly feel that is the young woman I saw?
I'm looking at this picture and I'm going, oh my God, that girl looks so familiar. I think that's the girl I saw in Barbados. And when I read it, I realized her name was Amy.
Judy ultimately contacts the Bradleys, who alert the FBI. Using Judy Maurer's eyewitness account, the feds create composite sketches of the woman and her alleged abductors.
That lead was absolutely phenomenal, lifted our hope, our spirit. I knew she was alive. I know she is alive.
But by the time detectives follow up with the department store, no one remembers seeing Amy or her captors.
We thought we had finally found her, and that wasn't the case. So it was just back to square one again. "13
years have now passed, and there are still more questions than answers surrounding Amy Bradley's disappearance. Although Amy could be anywhere by now, private investigator Tim Buckholz believes that there are still answers to be found in Curacao.
Got a question for you. I'm looking for somebody. Remember this girl? Remember her?
Somebody knows what happened. One way or the other, somebody knows.
Tim believes that somebody could still be Alistair Douglas, the bass player aboard the cruise ship and the last person seen with Amy before she vanished. Douglas is believed to still be working and living in the Caribbean, and though there is no concrete evidence linking him to any crime, Tim Buckholz would like to ask him one simple question.
What happened to Amy that morning while the ship was docking in the Curacao? That's the only question I want answered.
Until then, Tim and the Bradley family will continue searching the Caribbean for clues, hoping that one day Amy will come home.
I miss her when I'm washing dishes, when I'm taking a shower, when I'm working. She's my heart. She's absolutely my heart. She knows that we love her and that we will fight until the day we die to find her.
I know we still have hope, even though it may not be realistic.
I love you, little brother.
Hey! We just can't give up looking. We just got to do what we have to do. As long as it takes.
Amy Bradley was last seen in Curacao in March 1998. She is 5 foot 6 inches tall with brown hair and green eyes. Amy also has 4 distinctive tattoos: a Tasmanian devil on her shoulder blade, a sun on her lower back, a Chinese symbol on her right ankle, and a gecko around her navel. Today, she would be 37 years old. If you have information about the disappearance of Amy Bradley, please go to mylifetime.com/vanished and click on the tips button.
Well, show me around your grounds, and I know that there have been a lot of things that you've been doing and keeping busy with in honor and tributes to Amy.
Over here, we've got this entire area from down the side, and we have a plaque for Amy's Garden. And the yard,
it says Amy's Garden. Oh.
It just uplifts us when it's all in bloom because it just feels so much like Amy.
And that is the case of the Amy Bradley. It's a very disturbing case in my opinion, and it's one that I really, really felt needed to be brought to light and brought out into the open. I hear lots and lots of cases here at Missing Kids TV, but when I heard this case for the first time a few days ago, I knew I had to do an episode on this. I get lots of different cases that come through here, but this one really touched me. And it scared me a little. It scared me to think that right as we speak, that there's a network of evil criminal people that target our young children and that go out of their way to kidnap, to abduct, and to force our loved ones into this kind of activities. It's a very scary concept for me. Now, if you're listening to this program, you've taken time out of your day to listen to the story of Amy. Now, here is where you become part of the story. You have two choices now. You can either listen to what you've listened to and let the case stop there, or you can pass this case along to others and let them also know about what has happened to Amy. Amy could be